So this is the first full night of the retreat. Some of you have already been here a few days and will already be aware of the uncertainty of the weather. We always start our retreats taking the precepts. This is how our teacher, Ajahn, did it. He was always encouraging meditators to see the important relationship between sila and samadhi and panya, these three aspects of the Buddhist path: so virtue, concentration, wisdom. Even before we take the precepts, we take refuge in the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. We're reminding ourselves who the original teacher is that we're following, the Buddha. The Dhamma is the truth that his teachings point to. Sangha is the group of those enlightened individuals, men and women, monks, nuns, laymen, laywomen, who over the years since the Buddha started teaching have followed this path and come to the same realization that the Buddha did. The purpose of our practice, the purpose of why we come on a retreat, we're seeking true peace of mind, true happiness by cultivating this path and liberating the mind, freeing the mind from the causes of suffering. This path, they call it magga. It's the path that leads to the end of suffering. Something Ajahn emphasized over and over again is that you have to practice the whole path if you want the good result. The result is what we call phala, the fruit, and then realization and nibbana, enlightenment, the end of suffering, the highest peace. We call it many things. But if you want to attain that, you have to follow the whole path, cultivate and develop every aspect of the path. Otherwise it doesn't work. It was like Ajahn used to say, every part of the magga, the Eightfold Path, is like a piece of a bridge. You're crossing a river. For the bridge to work, all the pieces have to be fitted together, and then you can walk across comfortably. If there's a piece missing, well, you won't reach the other side, or there'll be a hole and you fall through or something. It's like that. Bridges in the old days, if you look, they're made out of pieces of stone joined together. Often there's nothing supporting in the middle underneath. It's just an archway of stone blocks put together, and they support each other. And so people, even vehicles, heavy vehicles, can cross. But if there's one missing, maybe the whole thing will collapse. And the path is like that. We can't just practice mindfulness without wisdom or without virtue. We can't just practice virtue and not go on to develop samadhi and then panya, wisdom. All the parts of the path, they work together. So this is how we practice, particularly in a Buddhist monastery, where the Sangha are those who have actually committed to following this Buddhist path fully, wholeheartedly, for as long as they live as Buddhist monks, novices, anagarikas. That's their life, cultivating this path. So as lay people, you've come into a monastery, you're living now with people who have committed to the path. And you might say that's the flavor of life in a monastery. Everything becomes part of the practice, developing the path. And every part of the path is important. So Ajahn Chah used to remind us to make a strong foundation of our sila, the practice of 5 precepts, and on a retreat on the 8 precepts. Because a firm practice of sila leads to a firm, steady state of mind, peaceful state of mind, if we put effort into keeping our precepts. Because the qualities that we develop keeping the precepts bring steadiness and happiness to our mind. Brings us a sense of composure, discipline to our speech and our actions. Even if inside our minds we're still not peaceful, we begin outwardly with our behavior, our speech, our actions, to make them skillful, to make them harmless. We're learning not to harm ourselves or harm others through our speech, our actions, by keeping precepts. And the karmic result of that is a steady, peaceful state of mind. I just chanted Silena Sukhatinyanti. It means we undertake to keep these precepts for happiness, a happy state of mind, a mind free from regret, from doubt, guilt, anxiety. You feel at ease in yourself, and other people around you feel at ease. They feel safe. Ajahn Chah said, when you have a meditation retreat, everybody in the monastery is keeping the precepts. They have that sense of caring about what they do, what they say. They're sensitive to other people, friendly, practicing compassion. So he said somebody can put their bag down in the hall or somewhere in the monastery, and they don't have to worry that someone else is going to pinch their bag. Because your state of mind when you're keeping the precepts is not like that, isn't it? You're not thinking of taking something from someone else. That's the second precept we undertake, to not steal, not to take things that belong to others. So it creates a very valuable atmosphere, and quite a rare atmosphere in the world. Because much of the world you can't be sure what other people are thinking or doing, their intention. But in a monastery it produces a good atmosphere when you can be at ease. Silena Sukhatinyanti Silena Bhoka Sampata. We practice sila for prosperity, wealth. When it's out in the world, we keep the precepts. Well, it helps us to look after our wealth, because it makes us mindful, careful, how we obtain our wealth, our money, how we use it, not to make foolish decisions, foolish choices that lead us to risk our money, our wealth, misspend it, misuse it, or commit crimes or whatever. Anything that would risk our wealth we don't do when we keep the precepts. Also, on a deeper level, we're becoming prosperous or wealthy in our minds by keeping the precepts. We develop this happiness of a mind free from regret, a mind that is content. It's cleaning up our mind by keeping the precepts, so we can develop the higher wealth, the wealth of Dhamma. When we keep the precepts, we're already mindful, we're aware, we're composed. When you listen to Dhamma or read a Dhamma book, it will go into your heart better. Your heart receives the Dhamma better. And you look after that Dhamma. Your mind is more peaceful, so you remember it, you can follow it, you can contemplate it until you gain insight. That's our inner wealth. Silena nibbutiyanti. Ultimately we're practicing precepts for Nibbana, for complete freedom from suffering, stress, pain, by freeing our minds from the causes of suffering and stress, greed, anger, delusion. Sila, the practice of sila, supports that. We're developing our mind in the right way, the right direction, bringing up mindfulness of our intentions, our thoughts, restraining our speech, our actions, so as not to follow unskillful intentions. So it's for liberation. Often when we come on a meditation retreat, we're just thinking maybe of the technique. What's the monk going to teach? What technique? And that's true, that's an important part of meditation. But we have to see the full practice of the path involves sila, samadhi and panya. Or the full eightfold noble path, beginning with right view, samadhi, through to right concentration, samma samadhi, and everything in between. The sila is a necessary part of our practice that supports the meditation techniques and the other aspects of the practice. One time, one of the monks heard Ajahn say, "All these people who like to meditate, they like to come and ask me about jhana and how to attain jhana and states of samadhi." I think maybe the best thing is just, when you want to know how well someone's practiced, just go and look at the toilets in the monastery. How clean are they? You go and look at the toilets. If they're clean, well maintained, it's a sign people are practicing with mindfulness, with care. Those people, maybe they will attain states of samadhi, states of jhana. If the toilets are all messy and nobody cares, it's unlikely those people are going to have enough mindfulness to attain deep states of insight, deep states of samadhi. There's a link between our external behavior and our internal mental behavior, what we're doing. And you see this as you practice. So everything becomes important in the practice. So even keeping the 8 precepts, it's not just about not stealing, not killing. Those are vital as well, but it's also about more simple things as well. How you use the things in the monastery, the buildings, the facilities, how you eat your food, when you eat your food, how you do it. Ajahn Chah always said, when you eat your food in the monastery, eat it quietly. It's not a time to socialize and chat. You use your meal time as a time to meditate on eating. Or when you go to the toilet, it's still a meditation practice. How do you enter the toilet? How do you leave it when you leave it? Do you just leave it messy for the next person, or do you clean up after yourself? These all fall within our sila, our practice of the precepts. You might call it developing mindfulness and responsibility in daily life. And you find it gives good results. If you're careful in everything you do while you're on retreat, what you're saying, what you're doing, well then you become careful with your mind and you start to see your own thoughts and become more mindful, have more self-control. It all works together. And these are the different aspects of the Eightfold Path. Samadhi is the first part of the path. And Ajahn Chah said it's like a lamp, a lantern. Like at night when we finish here, it will be dark. We have to go back to our tent. You need a lamp, don't you? You need a torch or a light to get you there. So he said, Samadhi, the first part of the path, is like a lamp that shines, shows you the whole path ahead of you. Even if you feel you haven't yet learnt to meditate very well, you can't practice mindfulness very well, or you haven't got any concentration, you don't know much about Dhamma, first of all you have to put in effort into developing right view, like lighting your lantern, so that you can see where you have to go. And the important part of right view is learning to recognize what is skillful behavior and unskillful behavior. Kusala Dhamma, akusala Dhamma, phrases you hear monks talk about a lot. That which is good, wholesome, is kusala. That which is unwholesome, unskillful, akusala. So samadhi means developing that clear knowing and understanding of what is skillful and what is unskillful in our actions, our speech, and even our thoughts. Most important, our thoughts. That's like turning the lantern on. You start to shine your own awareness and understanding back onto your own mind. And you start to recognize, to see what is kusala Dhamma, what is akusala Dhamma as they are arising. Now obviously as you practice over the next few days, there'll be many different thoughts, emotions, situations that come up, and you'll see some skillful, wholesome states of mind, some unskillful states of mind. So we also have to reflect and accept we're all receiving the fruits of our karma, what we've done before. We've thought many things, done many things, which bring results back to us all the time. Some good, some not good. It's just normal. When you start to meditate, you'll see both the good and the bad in your own mind. So you need plenty of patience, and you use your faith, commitment to the practice, to the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, to support you as you're learning and looking at your own mind. You can't be too high and idealistic and say, I should have no negative thoughts in my mind. Very difficult when we're starting out in our meditation. We are aiming to free our mind from negative thoughts, but there're bound to be a few come up, especially the first day or two. You're just adjusting. You know, yesterday you were at home, comfortable, doing many things. Now you're in the forest, uncomfortable, simple, not distracted. You don't have many things to occupy your mind here. So you'll see all kinds of reactions come up. Sometimes you feel very inspired and think, oh, this is a good thing I'm doing. My mind maybe feels peaceful, happy. Sometimes you might just feel very frustrated. Sometimes you feel sleepy, sometimes awake, sometimes bored, sometimes interested. We have a whole range of mental states and reactions coming up. So we have to be patient with that and accept that, and then look at what's going on in your mind. And your first task is just to recognize which is the wholesome, good thoughts and which are the unwholesome ones, and then start to act accordingly. So the Buddha said, unwholesome mental states, negative mental states, we have to learn to abandon them, give them up. Skillful mental states, we bring up, we develop, we cultivate. So somebody was saying this afternoon, you know, when you're sitting in your tent, maybe you smell the smell of nice food. What do? Oh, that's part of the practice as well. We're not just meditating here in the hall. Maybe you go back to your tent and you can smell food being cooked in the kitchen. what does your mind do? What does it do to you as you smell that nice smell? Maybe it makes you hungry, interested, and you start getting very greedy, desiring a nice food. And that's where you have to practice, isn't it? Maybe you change your thinking at that moment. You think, oh, this is... If somebody is giving up their time to cook food for everyone tomorrow or later today, if it's the morning, you can contemplate the goodness of the action leading to that smell, or the action behind that smell. Or maybe just contemplate the smell itself. It's just a passing experience and it's pleasant. There's nothing wrong with having a pleasant smell come to your nose. But you just establish mindfulness and you know, oh, it's just a passing pleasant smell, and then it fades. It's not like you're thinking of that smell and experiencing that smell all the time. It'll be temporary. That's just a very simple example of how we practice with the different experiences we have. Some pleasant, some unpleasant. We're learning to bring up right view and apply it to our experience as we practice. And we'll talk about other meditation techniques tomorrow and the next day, but this is the basic one, is learning to see, recognize wholesome states and bring them up, cultivate them, and then let go of the unwholesome ones. And the practice of the precepts is supporting that. Every day you might review your precepts, how well are you keeping your precepts. Like in Thailand they have a phrase, they say raksa sin, it means we look after the precepts. Ajahn Chah said, you don't really look after the precepts look after you. Once you follow the precepts as a guideline, they're looking after you by stopping you falling into unskillful ways of speech or action. So naturally they're helping you to train your mind, to bring up right view, to see your thoughts and states of mind that lie behind your actions. And you start to sort things out. Let go of the negative thoughts, bring up the more skillful thoughts. And that comes out in the way we speak, the way we act. You'll see when your mindfulness is strong, well, you can keep the precepts quite easily, and you all have probably done many times before. But then sometimes we're challenged by different situations. Sometimes we get annoyed with other people or with the situation. Maybe it's too cold and wet, or it's too hot, too many flies. Something's not right, or we feel tired, or we feel pain. We have different situations which challenge our practice of the precepts. But somebody who understands how to practice with the precepts, they keep the precepts even if internally on the inside they've got a negative mind state coming up. They know that, they understand, oh, I'm getting a bit angry here, or I've got some greed, or even delusion can cause us all kinds of problems. But they know that. They have enough awareness, enough mindfulness to know that, and they don't let it come out and break their precepts. So we're learning how to practice in this environment. You follow the routine, look after the place, look after each other. This all becomes part of our meditation practice. And the best way to do that is looking after our mind. If we neglect our mind, then we can easily break our precepts. And sometimes it's very easy, very quick. A situation arises and maybe we say something hastily, quickly, and we break our precept. Or we can't be bothered in a situation to do something we should be doing, or whatever, or maybe a fly comes and lands on us and we're just so upset, we just squash it straight away. Different things will tempt us. It's up to us to really practice, bring up the mindfulness and use the precepts to check and review our behavior, and to see the beauty of when we do keep the precepts means outwardly our behavior becomes very beautiful, something that's very valuable to the world. Even if on the inside we're still not peaceful yet. It doesn't matter, the precepts are already a way of training, and they help us to turn our attention inwards and deal with the root cause of our suffering, the greed, the anger, the delusion. So this is why we begin the retreat, undertaking the precepts. We use them as a foundation for building better things, higher dhammas, developing mindfulness, developing concentration through using the meditation techniques, like mindfulness of breathing, metta bhavana, and then developing insight, wisdom into the nature of body and mind phenomena, what we call nama rupa, physical phenomena, mental phenomena, which is what this world is. The Buddha has done all the groundwork for us by giving us these terms, these teachings, so that it's pointing us to look at the true nature of existence. You'll notice when you're keeping the precepts, you're developing mindfulness, you're practicing sitting and walking, you can start to observe more closely what the Buddha was talking about. He said ultimately everything is anicca, dukkha, anatta. This is where wisdom arises. Seeing your own body is, we call it our own body, but it's not really our body. It's a collection of the four elements. On a day like today, you really see the elements on the outside. It can be very warm and still and calm, and then everything can change. You get strong winds, rain, goes cold, then that passes, becomes warm again. This is the action of the elements interacting with each other. And there's no person or being in that, it's just conditions dependent on temperature and winds and so on. You can observe that, and then you bring that insight back into your own body. You watch your own body, it's the same, just the same as the weather. You have different sensations, hot and cold, different feelings, pleasure and pain. Your own elements, four elements, are interacting all the time. As you practice more mindfulness and you reflect, you can see that. And these elements don't have any owner. They're just what they are. Heat and temperature, it's just heat and temperature. Hardness, the hardness of your body is just the earth element. Hardness, softness. The breath is an element, the air element. You practice anapanasati, following your breath. You're observing air coming into your body, leaving your body, going around your body. And there's no person in any of that. These are natural processes, natural phenomena that are without a self. These are reflections that start to come as you keep the precepts and develop that mindfulness, put effort into calming your mind through using the meditation techniques. Then it becomes more obvious. You start to see rupa is rupa, form is form. Nama is our mental activity, thoughts, memories, feelings, sense consciousness. These things arise and pass away, but there's no person or being in any of them. This is what we're looking at. We're investigating what the Buddha taught. We're coming to see, this is where all the trouble comes in our lives and in the world, is when we grasp at this body and mind as self. We identify as self. Then we get all the kinds of problems, the conflicts, the rivalries, the jealousies, all the desires and ambitions that lead us to have internal suffering or suffer with other people, the anger, the ill will, the hatred, and so on. All comes from losing awareness of the Dhamma, grasping at everything, And now we've got a chance to do the opposite. Start to observe and look at the way our mind works. Start to let go of some of that grasping and clinging. So we have a chance these next few days to keep the 8 precepts, develop mindfulness, listen to the Dhamma, contemplate the Dhamma. And they say you're living like devas for this next period. You want to know what it's like in heaven, and this is as near as you can get in the earth, on earth. It's heaven on earth. Meaning your mind, you're letting go of negative desires, unwholesome desires, and you're bringing up the skillful thoughts, the skillful states of mind. So you're like a deva. That's why we wear white, to remind us of our precepts, and our mind is becoming white, clean, cleaning up our mind by letting go of some of the more negative habits we have. And this is something important. Like they say, if you were to die on retreat like this, guaranteed heavenly rebirth. I'm not saying you should commit suicide or anything like that. Go back home, maybe it's difficult to maintain some of this mindfulness and keep the precepts. It's difficult, it's more challenging. Really familiarize yourself with the Dhamma of keeping precepts, practicing mindfulness, letting go, what we call nekama, letting go or renouncing some of the greed we have for the world. We're not shopping, we're not looking for entertainments and distracting ourselves. We're living very simply, but consciously doing that to train the mind to let go of some of its habits. Creating the mind of a deva, a sense of contentment, peace, harmlessness, kindness, compassion, all these different qualities, they come together as we keep the precepts. Your goal might be, our ultimate goal is Nibbana, but you might feel, oh, there's no way I can attain Nibbana in this life, it's just too difficult. But maybe your goal can be just to keep the precepts mindfully for a number of days, not to give in to the tendency to speak in an unskillful way, to lie or be cynical or harmful in the way we talk about other people, speak in a way that puts other people down or makes them feel unhappy, not to be selfish in our behaviour, not to do things that upset or harm other people. That much we can aspire to, for sure. And when they say when you keep the 8 precepts, you're getting an insight to what it's like to be enlightened. Because an enlightened person keeps the 8 precepts normally. They don't have to think about it. It's not a struggle for them. It's just normal. The 5 precepts, even the 5 precepts, they're an insight into the mind of a sotapanna, stream winner. Sotapanna, they say, still has some coarse thoughts come up. So they've attained the first level enlightenment. It's something you can all aspire to. But they still have some coarse thoughts. Sometimes they have greed, some anger, but they know what to do with their greed or their anger. They don't let it come out in their actions, their speech. And they practice vipassana. They see these are just temporary mental states and they let them go quickly because they know they're harming their own mind. They have that insight, they have that wisdom and that right view. Samadhi is established. So they say the stream winner, you can't tell when they're angry very easily. Maybe somebody who's an arahant, a Buddha, might tell, but most people will not know because their anger is not coming out in the way they speak, they act. They're not giving in to greed, they're not doing unskillful things. That much we can easily all aspire to. Maybe you have some anger come up, but you don't display it. You don't show your face at another person. You go and do things out of anger. You don't say or do things that harm others. Greed is the same. You don't act in greed in a way that other people can say, oh, they're just acting in a greedy, selfish way. They say a stream winner is like that. You can't tell when the defilements come up. You know they might still be there, but they're not obvious from their behavior. Or one monk said what defines a stream winner is they know how to say no to their own mind. And we all know how to say no to other people. Don't want that. Don't like you. It's the first word you learn when you're a kid. You never hear little kids say yes, do they? It's always no. Come here, no. Do this, no. We learn that word, but it's always external with parents or other people. But the Sotapanna, they have this ability to say no to their own mind. When they have an unskillful thought, they say no to it, meaning they let it go quickly. So maybe they want to abuse someone, but they said, no, I can't do that. And they have a sense of what is right and wrong, shame. They want to be lazy or indulgent. They just say, no, I won't follow that. They want to be greedy. No, I won't follow my greed. The Sotapannas develop that skill that they can see their own mind. They know the precepts. They know what is wholesome, unwholesome. And they can act accordingly. They preserve that which is wholesome and they let go very quickly that which is coarse, unwholesome, unwanted. You might call it the rubbish of the mind. They know how to let go of rubbish very quickly. They know what to do with it, where to put it. There's no doubt in their mind, no fuzziness. They know, oh, this is unwholesome, this is to be let go of. It's a skill, isn't it? It's a skill that they've developed through much practice and insight. And there's no sense of loss when you let go of a negative thought. It's not like, oh, why do I have to keep letting go of my greed or my anger? The mind knows why it's letting go. It's like, this is not good for me. This is causing me suffering. So your mind does it automatically. It's like you don't even have to give it a lot of encouragement or a lot of pushing. It just knows this is what is the right thing to do. If I have greed here and I'm attaching too much to my desire for pleasure in some way or other, or some view, or some negative, stressful thought, this is to be given up, let go of. The Sotapanna knows that, and they just do it. If they're tempted to break a precept, they just stop themselves straight away because they know, oh, this is not any good. This will lead to suffering. So they say it's somebody who knows how to say no to their own mind. And this is totally separate from other people. Even if they say, the Buddha said, even if somebody was to be slowly torturing you or killing you, heaven forbid, it's never going to happen to anyone here, but if it was to happen, the Sotapanna still isn't going to give in to their anger, because they know the anger is their responsibility. They'll let go of it. As the Buddha taught in the simile of the saw, even if somebody grabbed you and they're sawing your arm off, you still don't give in to your angry thought. You might have to just accept, oh, it's old karma, I must have sawn their arm off last life. This life they're getting their revenge. But you don't seek revenge yourself, because the really harmful thing is not them sawing your arm off, it's your own angry thought and the attachment to it. That's how the enlightened person or the person heading for Nibbana is practicing. And this goes against the stream of the world, like the way the world is. They say, oh, if someone's sawing your arm off, go and fight them, or call the police, do something, shoot them, whatever. The way the world is, that's the more normal response, isn't it? But the way of the Dhamma is, but watch your mind. If you've got anger, then that's what you have to let go of. That's why the Buddha gave that teaching. And he wasn't speaking just from idealism, he's speaking from experience. He's practiced with his own mind, and the Buddha, and even in his last life, even in previous lives, many times he'd been physically threatened or hurt He knew how to let go of anger even in difficult situations. And this is how we use the precepts to bring up mindfulness, to see the impermanent nature of our own moods. You say, oh, it's just a mood. Anger, greed, worry. And you let it go because you know it's impermanent. What is impermanent is not self. So this is what we're aiming for, develop this right view through our practice and this skill of letting go of negative states of mind that will cause us suffering. So we have more time to practice this, so maybe I'll just leave you with these thoughts tonight, and then before we finish, I think Byong, the retreat organizer, will give you some information. As we know, the retreat is organized by many people. Obviously, the Sangha, we live here, we try and help provide the place and set it up for you. But also many other people are giving up their time, energy to support you in your practice. We have Byong, Bihua, Jeffrey, the organizers. We have Kun Oi in the kitchen. And all of you are doing your bit. Many of you will be helping just to clean up and do different volunteer jobs over the next few days. This is how we can support each other in the practice. We practice our own meditation, we also support each other. So anyway, on behalf of the Sangha, I'll give you our blessing and anumodana for your efforts coming here to give up your own comforts and other activities that you could have been doing at this time, to coming to practice meditation, follow the Buddhist path. This is something very beneficial to you and to others. So we just express our appreciation and wish you all have a